Good morning and welcome to our Weber County Board of Commission meeting. Today is Tuesday, the 21st of September. It's 10 o'clock. We have a full quorum, and we also have a very full agenda. We appreciate those of you who have chosen to attend in person, and we also welcome you if you're attending virtually. Our Pledge of Allegiance this morning will be led by Director Rick Grover over planning. Our invocation will be given by our Ogden Eccles Conference Center and Perry's Egyptian Theater Director, Cassie Bybee. And our thought of the day will be given by Mrs. Jenkins' best son, Commissioner Scott Kent Jenkins. We'll go to that point.
Will the audience please rise?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father in heaven, as we come before thee, at this time we ask thee to please be with us as we have this commission meeting today, that we might be able to make decisions that are best for Weber County. We have gratitude in our hearts for the freedoms that we enjoy, for the health and strength that we have, and for the ability that we have to serve in this community. We ask you to please bless and be with those that are struggling at this time of and during this season, that they might feel comfort and that they might feel love, and that we might be able to help to ease their burdens. We pray and we say these things humbly in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen.
You know, this is tough to give a thought about Christmas here just a few days in advance of it. You don't hardly know what to say. So, you know, at my church I go to, my wife and I teach a youth class. And, you know, this time of year is all about love, right? Love and appreciation for everything that you've got. So, this little gal walks into our class, this little 8-year-old girl, and she gives a card to me. It says, Becky and Scott from Ivy. A little Ivy. She says in here, Merry Christmas, you guys are the best, Ivy. And then she says, P.S., I'll cry myself to sleep tonight. Oh, cry myself to sleep. You know, that's been one of the toughest jobs I've ever had, primary. That's not easy. But I'm telling you, you get to the point you absolutely love these little kids. They come up and give you a hug, and that's what Christmas is all about this year, you guys. Go give somebody a hug. Tell them you love them and that it's a great time of the year. All right, Mr. Chair, sweet and simple.
And hopefully when you give them the hug, they won't cry themselves to sleep.
That's right.
Okay. Very good. Commissioners, I'll read the consent items on our agenda. Item number E on our agenda is a request for approval of warrants 4823 through and including 4879 and 464, 369 through and including 464, 538 in the amount of $2,993,081.81. Item number 2 is a request for approval of purchase orders in the amount of $86,218.69. Item 3 is a request for approval of minutes for the following meetings: August 17th, 24th, and 31st, November 23rd and 30th, and December 14th. Item number 4 is a request for approval of a lease agreement by and between Weber County and Ogden Rotary for the Rotary Club to hold their weekly meetings at the Ogden Eccles Conference Center. Item 5 is a request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and Shaw Dance Studio to hold their winter recital at the Perry's Egyptian Theater. Item 6, a request for approval of amendment to the Ogden Nordic Agreement related to grooming and activities in North Fork Park to include cooperation on a yurt usage. Item 7 is a request for approval of a donation of Prop 1 funds in the amount of $68,646.21 to Trails Foundation of Northern Utah for for asphalt surface repairs on the Pineview Loop pathway and construction maintenance on the trails at North Fork Park. And Commissioners, our last item, item 8, is a request to declare parcel number 15-112-0051 as surplus property. Questions, Commissioners, on any of the consent items?
Not for me.
Not for me.
Hearing none, Mr. Ricky Hatch, our Clerk Auditor, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We issued 14 purchase orders this week for $86,000. One-third of that amount, or $28,000, was for the roads department to purchase a new sander. 20%, or $17,000, is for the health department, and that was exclusively to buy vaccines. 17%, or $14,000, is for the garage, and that is for upfitting of sheriff's vehicles. And 12%, or $10,000, for the transfer station, and that was primarily for repairs to equipment. As far as checks, we issued 227 warrants this week for $3 million. One-third of that amount, or $1 million, is a ramp award to the go towards the Ogden Arts Plaza and Dumpke Arts Plaza. 15%, or $461,000, is for the jail. That was mostly nursing services, but also door controls, repairs, food, and inmate counseling. Then we had 3 items for 7%, or roughly $215,000. One was the monthly payment for paramedic services, one was the monthly payment for human services, and one was 2 escrow releases, one for Halcyon Lake Estates and one for Asgard's Heights.
Commissioners, does Mr. Hatch's explanation bring up any other memories or questions for you? Hearing none, I just want to compliment again those things. The door controls were a sizable amount of the increase, but we did get even some thank yous back from the people who are in charge of the correctional facility. That makes their lives safer, and to get those things updated. With that just comment, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent items as printed.
Mr. Chair, I would move to approve consent items on the agenda E1 through 8.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. I'll place that motion for vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Our first action item, Commissioners, is a resolution. It would be Resolution 53-2021. The County Commissioners of Weber County appointing members to the Weber Morgan Health Board of our Board of Health. We've had another week to review this. Our presenter today is Mr. Brian Cowan. Mr. Cowan, thanks for joining us again. Go ahead.
Thank you, Commissioner Harvey, and I appreciate the time on the agenda today. I'm here to ask for the reappointment of Dr. Frank Brown to the Weber Morgan Board of Health. He is representing the Weber Medical Society, and also the reappointment of Alicia Martinez, who is the director of the Midtown Health Clinic. And new appointments to the Board of Health would be Jason Boren, who is representing the hospital administration in our area, and he comes from the Ogden Regional Hospital, and Doug Jacobs, who is Morgan County School District Superintendent, and he's filling the position of the school districts on our Board of Health.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Cowan. Commissioners, questions from, you wanted to stay this for a week, and we've done that. Any questions for Mr. Cowan? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes?
I would make the motion to approve Resolution 53-2021, the names that's presented by Mr. Brian Cowan this morning for reappointment or appointment to the Weber Morgan Board of Health. I'm familiar with Dr. Brown and Ms. Martinez. I've served with them for the past 3 or 4 years, I believe, and they are great individuals. I think they'll be obviously available to do their duties over the next appointment period, and I'm assuming that the appointments from the school districts are just as well suited for this board.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Great. We have a motion and a second. Mr. Brandt, will you have to do a roll call vote, please?
Okay, roll call vote for Resolution 53-2021. Commissioner Farrar?
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins? Aye. Chairman Harvey?
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Cowan.
Thanks, Commissioners.
Item number 2, Commissioners, is a request for approval of the final reading of an ordinance. And by the way, that ordinance would be 2021-31 of the County Commissioners of Weber County updating the county park fees. Fee number is 16-2-3. Our presenter today is the Director of Culture, Parks, and Recreation, Mr. Marty Smith. Mr. Smith, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Commissioners.
We're just here to present what we had covered last week in the first reading. We've gone through all of our, by division and our venues, all of the lines of fees, line by line, modifying those fees just due to increased cost for us. And then also some additional services that we had to add in, like the new yurts up in North Fork Park. So we're just looking for approval if you, or any questions that you have.
Questions for Mr. Smith, commissioners? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I'd make a motion that we approve resolution number...
Ordinance.
Ordinance number 2021-31 as presented by Marty.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Brandt, a roll call, please.
A roll call vote for ordinance 2021-31. Commissioner Flohr?
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins?
Aye.
Chairman Harvey?
Aye, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Commissioners, we'll move on to item number 3 on our agenda. It's a request for approval of the final reading of Ordinance 2021-32. The County Commissioners of Weber County updating public infrastructure fees, 16-2-17. Our presenter today will be the head of our Civil Council, Chris Crockett. Go ahead, Mr. Crockett.
Thank you, Commissioner. This is a final reading to establish a fee to review applications to create a public infrastructure district. State statute allows us to recoup the cost that it takes the county incurs in reviewing these applications. And it's good that we're presenting this because we're about to receive our first application. So no changes from the first reading.
Questions, Commissioners? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for Ordinance 2021-32.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Mr. Brandt.
Roll call vote for ordinance 2021-32. Commissioner Flohr?
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins?
Aye.
Chairman Harvey?
Aye. Thank you, Mr. Crockett. The next item, Commissioners, is a request for approval of the final reading of Ordinance 2021-33 of the County Commissioners of Weber County, updating the Clerk Auditor fees. That's 16-2-2. Our Comptroller, Scott Park. Mr. Park?
Mr.
is not
Chair?
here, so Mr. Hatch, will you take care of that?
Yes, Scott asked me to take care of this. This is the second reading. There have been no changes to the since the first reading. This comes partly as a result of the state auditor wanting to have all counties and all jurisdictions take a look at our fees to make sure that they are properly justified and not overly inflated. And so we have looked at and done a study of the cost of the services that we provide in our office and have made adjustments to our fees accordingly. In some cases, we reduced the fee, and in some cases, we increased the fee so that they more properly reflect the costs.
Commissioners, questions for Mr. Hatch? Mr. Hatch, I know Mr. Dougal, the state auditor, calls you the most efficient clerk auditor in the land in the state of Utah. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to approve this ordinance 2021-33.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Mr. Brandt.
Roll call vote for ordinance 2021-33. Commissioner Flohr?
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins?
Aye.
Chairman Harvey?
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 5, Commissioners, is a request for approval of Resolution 60-2021 of the County Commissioners of Weber County appointing trustees to the Plain City Cemetery District. Our very own Stacy Skeen, our administration office. Ms. Skeen, welcome.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
The Plain City Cemetery District has 2 positions that expire at the end of this month, Monette Panter and Jeff East. I posted the vacancies according to state statute, and I received applications from the 2 individuals and no one else. So they're both applying for reappointment to the Cemetery District.
This is in your neck of the woods. Commissioner Jenkins, any questions about that?
No, I know both the people that are reapplying. I've spoke with one of them, and everything's in order there. So I'd make a motion there, Mr. Chair, that we approve resolution number 60-2021, reappointing these people.
Resolution 60-2021, a motion received.
Second.
Second. Thank you, Mr. Brandt.
Roll call vote for resolution 60-2021. Commissioner Flohr?
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins?
Aye.
Chairman Harvey?
Aye.
Okay.
Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Skeen. The next item on our agenda will be presented by the Director of Planning, Mr. Rick Grover. It's a request for approval of Resolution 61-2021. The County Commissioners, Weber County, reporting member of the Weber County Ogden Valley Planning Commission. Mr. Grover, go ahead, please, sir.
Thank you. We have one position open for the Ogden Valley Planning Commission. We have 6 people that have applied for this position. David Morby, James Green, Jared Montgomery, James Defenderfer, Brenda Doris, and Scott Kelly for you to consider. And I'd be glad to answer any questions that you may have on these individuals.
Mr. Commissioner Farrar, this is in your neck of the woods. Any questions?
No, but I'm happy to make a motion when you're ready.
I'd like to also, because this is in Commissioner Jenkins' portfolio, do you have any statements or questions on this?
No.
And Commissioner Farrar, I'll go to you for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As Mr. Grover stated, we had 6, in my opinion, well-qualified individuals. I'm familiar with 3 or 4 of these individually, all good people. I think in looking at the structure of the current Ogden Valley, I thought it was important that we have somebody that represents the north end of that valley, i.e. Liberty, that we haven't had for a little period of time, at least my recollection of the people. So my motion, Mr. Chair, would be to appoint Mr. Jared W. Montgomery from Liberty, Utah to the Ogden Valley Planning Commission.
We have a motion for Jared W. Montgomery from Liberty, Utah to serve on that board. We have a motion for Mr. Montgomery. Is there a second? Hearing no second, I will second that motion and call for the vote. Mr. Brandt?
Roll call vote for Resolution 61-2021. Commissioner Farrar?
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins?
No.
Chairman Harvey?
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
You do on again.
I'm going to put my stuff and go home. Oh, really? All right.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Hold on. Item number 7 is a request for approval of a contract signed between Weber County and Varsity Spirit for 3 Varsity Spirit summer camps in 2022 to be held at the Ogden Eccles Conference Center. Director Cassie Bybee, go ahead, please, Ms. Bybee.
Good morning. So this summer camp is a good piece of business for the conference center because it is held in the summer. Varsity Spirit has come in the past. We bid on this proposal through with Visit Ogden, and the rates are competitive statewide. But this contract, we've had a discussion with them that we want to graduate them up in their rental amounts, kind of on a step process. So they're significantly paying more rent than they have in the past this year with this agreement, about $5,500 more than what they've paid in the past, but we want to grow that and bring their rental even up more. But that's what this is for.
Great. Questions for Ms. Bybee, either commissioners? I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I'd make a motion that we approve the contract between Weber County and Varsity Spirit as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. I'll place that motion for vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Ms. Bybee. Do a wonderful job. And for those of you who don't know, we sure appreciate the work that Cassie and her crew does over at the Ogden Eccles Conference Center and Piers Egyptian Theater. For about the last 45, 50 days, they've been working extended hours every week. Many times it includes not just the nights, but also the weekends, and in preparation on holidays because of the enormous number of meals and events that have been served over there. To you and your team, we really appreciate what you've done there, Cassie. Thank you so much. Thank you. Commissioners, the next 3 items on the agenda, items 8, 9, and 10, pertain to a marketing and advertising RFP that was conducted by our very own Jason Horn, who's the Director of Procurement. Mr. Horn, will you come and just briefly explain that process before we present these contracts? What you did, and just kind of take a few moments, but the cliff notes of how that all went down.
Sure thing. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
So basically, we had a contract that had expired, and it was time to renew so that the pool doesn't become too stagnant, so to speak. We were pretty thorough. This lasted quite a while. We had a lot of interest and a lot of companies, firms, if you will, that submitted. We went through it again. We had an evaluation team that went through each proposal in detail, and we decided towards the end that, again, in the best interest of the county was to select multiple instead of just one, and that would create an umbrella over the entire county so that each department could select who best fit their needs under the requirements of communication, PR, marketing, and so forth. And so the 3 on these items here, is it 8, 9, and 10?
Correct.
These contracts will be extended to these firms to provide these services for the county for the next several years.
Mr. Horn, you've done a wonderful job, and we trust the work that you've done. You've been very efficient. You've also been very detailed and careful, and the work, just the vast amount of work you've done on this and other things to make sure that the county's protected is very much appreciated. It often goes unsaid, but we sure appreciate what you do. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Commissioner Frohr, this is, we're selecting 3 different vendors on this one, items 8, 9, and 10. You're being familiar with procurement from the state. Can you tell us just a little bit how that works, a little bit, or what you did at the state?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. So this follows the state procurement policies that actually Commissioner Jenkins and I both worked on legislation for state procurement for a number of years. So the idea here is to look at qualified companies providing services to the county in this particular case, and evaluate those in what I would call an independent group, which Mr. Horn was able to accomplish between his leadership and the group. I think there was, and I was part of that evaluation group to some extent. I think there was, 10 to 15 different applications, or
There were 21 in the beginning.
21 in the beginning. So we reached out, and not only to in-state groups, but out-of-state groups.
Correct.
In fact, out-of-the-country groups, I think, in some cases, if I'm not mistaken,
You're
Mr.
correct.
Horn.
Yep.
So those were evaluated, and each of these 3 contracts that are up for us today, I felt provided great services, but in some cases, different areas. So this gives the opportunity for our individual departments to pick and choose based upon that particular project, whether it's media, whether it's social media, whether it's print advertisement, the ability to pick and choose a marketing firm that best suits their needs without being directed into one. So I would, again, thank Mr. Horn and the evaluation team. In my opinion, these 3 in the evaluation all were very hard to differentiate from one to the other. So I think because they all come with different expertise, they all come with different components that can benefit this county.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Jenkins, I'll come to you in here in a moment, but 6 years ago, Mr. Horn, when I first entered the politic role or just started to campaign, there was a lot of, as I talked to the public, a lot of public comment regarding transparency. Since that time, in the last 5 years, Mr. Hatch, I want to tell you how grateful I am, and Mr. Crockett, finding a way to say yes. We've been able to put all of the transactions online for people to see, all the checks, all the detail, everything is there. We have social interaction now. We have more social interaction on our website and our various platforms than Salt Lake, Davis, and Utah counties combined. Weber County is in more touch with its citizenry or people than anybody else in this state, and our goal is to be the best in the country, and we'll continue down that road. This gives us tools to be able to do that. So with that, Commissioners, if there's no comments from you, Commissioner Jenkins, We have a request for approval. Thank you, Mr. Horn. We have a request for approval of a marketing and advertising agreement by and between Weber County and the DCHO Group. Are there any questions pertaining to that? If none, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I'd make that motion that we approve our contract with DCHO Group.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Number 9 is a request for approval of a marketing and advertising agreement by and between Weber County and Mountain Sports International, Inc., doing business as Dragonfly Media Technologies. I'll entertain a motion for approval of that contract.
So moved.
Second.
The motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. And item 10 is a request for approval of a marketing and advertising agreement by and between Weber County and Heart and Soul Marketing. I'll entertain a motion for approval there.
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Mr. Burton, we'll move on to item number 13. Steve Burton from our Planning Department is a request for discussion and/or action on final approval of the Point Subdivision located at approximately 3850 North Wolf Creek Drive. The item description is U like Unicorn, V Victor, P Papa, 070821. Mr. Burton, go ahead.
Hi, Commissioners. This is the final step in the subdivision process for the developer. His name is Chad Jones. This is part of what used to be called the Worldmark PRUD, a bunch of condominium units that were entitled back in the 80s and 90s. He's now proposing to plat 3 buildings with 16 units each. It's gone through the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission on August 24th recommended approval of this proposal, imposing no additional conditions. Water and sewer has all been accounted for, so they're going to be connecting to Wolf Creek Water. Now, there was a moratorium on water earlier this year. This subdivision is not impacted by that. At least if it is, we haven't heard anything from Wolf Creek since they've given the developer the will serve letter and capacity letter. The proposal comes with a request for approval of a subdivision improvement agreement to guarantee the improvement and installation of subdivisions. It's $640,314.60. And we as staff are also recommending approval of this project. I can display it on the screen if you'd like, or if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Commissioner Jenkins, this being in your portfolio, what's your pleasure?
I'd like to see it on the screen.
Sure.
Just to make sure we're all talking about the same thing.
Yeah, the location is about 3850 North Wolf Creek Drive on the west. It'd be the west side. Am I able to display this computer? Okay, cool. Oops.
We can see your screen here. And it'll be up
perfect.
there. Yeah.
Perfect.
As you pull up the document, it'll come up.
Recording in progress.
While that's loading, if it's also in the staff report in the packet if you have it. Here we go. So this will just give you a general idea. The red is the parcel that is being platted. If you know where that is, we're kind of right around the golf course. And then I'll scroll down and show you the subdivision plat here.
Man, every time I hit down that fairway, I pull it left. This is going to be right where I land that ball, Gage.
Watch out for that.
I know.
So three
Kind of
buildings.
bragging a little bit there, aren't you?
3 buildings, each with 16 units in them. These are condominium units. Here's just generally what they look like, just an elevation.
So this is the first time we've seen this, Steve?
That's correct.
So this is not for final approval?
It is. Yeah, so you typically only see these at a final, like once.
You know, I like see them in our work meeting, Rick, these kind. Anything that's major like this. I don't have a problem with this.
Will you go up to the very top screen real quick? Top page? Right there, I want to blow that picture up. Yeah. You do hit left there. Very good. Except when you do, you're another 200 yards past that point, so your long shtick. Okay. Any questions for Mr. Burton? I'll entertain a motion, Commissioners, for approval of this subdivision.
I don't have a problem with it. I'll make that motion.
You have a motion?
I'll second.
And a second. Place that motion for vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Burton. Ms. Adelot, this is a request for a final approval of Angie's Acres subdivision consisting of 5 lots and concurrent alternative access request. This is one we did see yesterday. Thank you very much.
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
This is, as Mr. Burton stated, this is kind of the final administrative step in approving a subdivision, and this request is for final approval of Angie's Acres. This is a 5-lot subdivision located in the A2 zone at approximately 300 north, 5500 west. A couple of things to note. The recommendation from the Western Weber Planning Commission is contained in the staff report. They did recommend approval of the subdivision back on November 17th. However, they recommended denial of the alternative access request. Just to kind of orient you a little bit, there is some road dedication proposed with this subdivision along the northern and eastern boundaries. The access request is along the southern boundaries of lots 3, 4, and 5. Staff feels that their request for an access exception does meet our land use code requirements, and so we would recommend approval of this subdivision and access exception request. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for Ms. Adelot? The petitioner, Mr. Larry Johnson's in the audience. Do you have any questions or any statements you'd like to make at this time? Very good, thank you. Commissioners, if no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I would move to approve with the comment.
Go ahead.
So just so we're on the record, so we will make sure that in the final plat, the road to the north, the future road, is dedicated so that there'll be no liability back in the event that that road ever does go through, liability or cost to the county for easements.
That is correct. We do have a final plat that does show both a hammerhead for the access easement on the south, as well as road dedication along the north.
Okay. This is one we reviewed yesterday, so I'm comfortable with that. I just wanted to make sure we're on record that that future road is dedicated at the time of the final plat signing.
Yes, sir.
So with that motion, before a second, I'll recognize again. I want to make a comment for Mr. Brandt. That road would be about, is it 5,500? What would that be about? The north, south, east, west?
I would guess about 400, 450 north-ish.
Okay.
By 5,500 west.
Okay, very good. Just want that in the minutes. Okay, Commissioner Jenkins?
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the final approval of Angie's Acres subdivision consisting of 5 lots and concurrent alternative access. I'll place that motion for vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Adelot. Item number G, like golf, on our agenda today is our public hearing. I'll entertain a request for a motion to adjourn our public meeting and convene a public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 2 under number G is the first public hearing for a 2022 Community Development Block Grant Program to provide the opportunity for representatives from nonprofit organizations as well as others to discuss potential projects. Our very own Chad Meyerhofer. Go ahead, sir.
Good morning, Commissioners. Yeah, this is the first step in applying for funds through the Community Development Block Grant Program, or the CDBG program, as I'll refer to it in here. So just in order to make sure that I cover all the required topics through this public hearing, I like to be able to read through some of these things to ensure that we have everything covered within this public hearing. So this hearing is being called to consider potential projects for which funding may be applied for under the 2022 Community Development Block Grant Program. The national objective is for grant money to primarily be spent to benefit low to moderate income persons, but other national objectives include using the funds to aid in the prevention or elimination of slums and blight, and may be also used to meet urgent needs because existing conditions pose a serious and immediate threat to health and welfare. The grant money must be spent on projects benefiting primarily low and moderate income persons. The Wasatch Front Regional Council, in which Weber County is a member, is expecting to receive approximately $1 million in this new program year. All eligible activities that can be accomplished under this program are identified in the CDBG application policies and procedures manual, and interested persons can review it at any time. Several of the eligible activities listed include examples such as construction of public works and facilities, examples of water and sewer lines, fire stations, acquisition of real property, provisions of public service such as food banks or homeless shelters. Also eligible are loan programs for providing businesses which would then hire low-income persons and homeowners. The unincorporated county does not currently have any active grant projects. However, in the past, Weber County as a whole has sponsored the Weber Housing Authority in a project that offers incentives for first-time home buyers. In the past, Weber County has received grants for modifications of restrooms for the Weber County Library to bring them in more compliance with ADA standards, and an emergency housing rehabilitation project that was administered through the Weber County Housing Authority. Developing ADA-compliant campsites, installing ADA-compliant door hardware at the fairgrounds, installing storm drains in low to moderate income communities to reduce flooding, installing wheelchair ramps at street intersections to make pedestrian sidewalk more accessible, as well as sponsoring nonprofit agencies such as your Community Connection, Ogden Weber Community Action Agency, Catholic Community Service, and others. The county has handed out its capital investment plan as part of the Regional Consolidated Plan. This list shows which projects the county has identified as being needed in the community. It's asked that anyone with questions or comments suggested during this hearing please identify themselves by name before they speak. The clerk will include your names in the minutes, and we'd like to specifically respond to your questions and suggestions during the hearing. So this year, the How to Apply meeting for the CDBG, I wasn't contacted by any nonprofit agencies, but Andy Beatles with our Weber Housing Authority was part of that, and she does have a program. I'd like to, if it's all right with you, Commissioners, turn the time over to her to kind of give you a brief description of her project that she's looking at this year.
Please, thank you. Ms. Beatles?
Thanks, Chad, and thanks, Commissioners. So the project we are interested in applying for this year is for a recovery community. And so what we're looking at doing is creating permanent housing for individuals that have a substance use disorder, and housing instability is a factor in their achieving sobriety. So we are interested in purchasing a building using the top floor for housing, where we'll turn those into apartments, and then the bottom floor will be used for treatment. So, and treatment will include peer support, case managers, therapists, group meetings, and then we could use the space for other service providers that provide substance use treatment. So, for example, USARA or some other community partners. And then also it will be a community space. So we're interested also in providing a daycare that the community as well as the residents could utilize. There is, we'll build a gym, and then there will be some community space that, for events, farmers markets, those kinds of events. We'd like this to be a community project, but also a safe place for individuals that are recovering from substance use disorder to heal, and to then be able to use this as a stepping stone, then to move out into the community. So that's a project that we're interested in applying for with the CDBG funding. Do you have any questions about that project? No?
Questions?
The question I'd have, Andy, is did you ever get anything back from your engineer on what would cost to retrofit that building?
We don't have an estimate yet.
Yeah, okay.
He has the plans, but we haven't got an estimate back yet.
Questions, Commissioner Faur?
So, just so I'm clear on this, the potential site is that Pleasant View building? So,
yes.
And but we're still waiting for numbers back from the engineer for what the cost of rehab would be?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And what's the amount of the grant you're?
So this grant specifically, the CDBG funding, will be applying for $250,000 for the land acquisition.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So just a small portion of.
That's a small portion of where we need to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Very small, that's okay.
Yeah.
Step in the right direction.
Yep. Every dollar helps.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
No other questions, Commissioners? I'm going to turn the time over to the public for comments. For those of you in the public, whether you're virtual or here in the audience, if you'll limit your comments to 3 minutes, please come to the lectern, state your name, as Mr. Meyerhofer said, and also the city in which you live. Any comments from the public? Hearing none, I'll close the one here in the public, and there's none online. We'll move on, Commissioners, to item number 4. I'll request a motion to adjourn our public hearing and reconvene a public meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We're now back in a public meeting. We're going to request to take action on this public hearing, which would be to, is there a motion for the 2022 or 2022 Community Development Block Grant Program to provide opportunities for representatives from nonprofit as well as other organizations for potential projects?
I'd make that motion.
I'd second.
We have a motion and a second. I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Item number H, like hotel, is commissioner comments. Commissioners, any comments from any of you?
For me.
I will extend my comments then to, this will be probably the last full meeting that I'll conduct as chairman of this Board of Commissioners.
Take your time, then.
I won't go too much, but I sure have enjoyed, appreciate both of you helping me along the way here. And it's nice to have veterans who've done this so long and served not just your communities in different areas, but also as legislators for this state and here. You are both mentors to me, and I appreciate that very much. Thank you. And I promise to give you, especially Commissioner Jenkins, as much crap next year as you've given me. So,
I look forward to that.
I need to make a comment.
Okay, go ahead, please.
So, I didn't realize, I thought you maybe had one next week, but I guess we don't.
No, we will not be meeting next week.
Okay. Well, I'm disappointed. I love these meetings. Anyway, I just wanted to make a comment, since this is probably your last stand as chair. Congratulate you on a great job. It's been a good year. It's been a fast year, but you've done a great job as chair. Your conducting these meetings has been exemplary for all of us. I think the public's been well served, and we appreciate your service.
Thank you very much, Commissioner.
No, I don't want to be left out.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
I would agree with that. I appreciate Commissioner Faur's comments and would want to echo that. And the fact you've been a great chair this last year, and we offer you thanks and appreciate your service.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your example. Thank you. Commissioners, we're going to move on to Item number I on our agenda, which is a request for a motion for a closed meeting to discuss pending and imminent litigation. Is there a motion?
Sure, I'll make one.
We have a motion, Commissioner Jenkins.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Frohr. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Great. We'll adjourn to the meeting behind us. Those of you who need to be there, please join us now. Mr. Brandt, I'll sign those documents later in the day. Just returned from our closed meeting. I'll entertain a motion as stated on your agenda, which would be...
Well, don't we, I want to make a motion to open this meeting again?
Okay, thank you.
We want to open the meeting?
I'd like to have a motion to open the meeting from closed session to back to our commission meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries very much. Is there a motion on what was discussed in the closed session?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the subdivision distribution settlement participation form related to the opioid litigation. This is a settlement form between ourselves and 22 other counties, we're the 23rd, in the state of Utah, and hopefully, before this is all over, we'll have 6 more join this agreement.
Great. We have a motion?
I'd second that with a comment, Mr. Chair.
Please.
I'd just like to thank Commissioner Jenkins for his leadership on this. I know this has been a struggle, a battle, and still not resolved entirely, but I'm glad he's taken the lead on this.
Thank you. Likewise.
Yeah,
You've spent a lot of time doing this.
Yeah,
And
a lot of
your
meetings.
experience has proved to be very valuable. It's not required, but I'm going to ask for a roll call vote on this because it would be good. Mr. Brandt, go ahead.
So it's not a resolution or ordinance, correct?
No. We're just going to do a roll call vote.
Okay.
Roll call vote for item I2.
I2. Roll call vote for item I2. Commissioner Frohr.
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins.
Aye.
Chairman Harvey.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Brandt. Item number J is a motion to adjourn. I'll accept one now.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned.